Ghostlore is a charming indie ARPG. There's a lot of heart in this game, and quite a lot of freedom to make your own build. Now, if you want to jump in and play blind, this is the perfect game for it. So don't feel the need to go follow all these tips and tricks. I know my job as a YouTuber is to get people to watch my videos, and I'm doing the opposite here. But this is absolutely the sort of game where you shouldn't feel like you need to follow a guide and can make your own way. Also, on that note, if you have no idea what Ghostlore is, maybe you're here without seeing my previous video, then do check out my review of Ghostlore, then come back over here. With that said, let's get into the 10 things I've found playing Ghostlore since early access that I think will help other players. Starting with number 1. Choose your starting class carefully, as you can't really swap classes until you reach the endgame. Later on, it's quite easy to farm 80k gold, the cost needed to respec. But when you're going through the story, it's faster to restart than to respec. So, make a couple characters and find a starting class that feels fun, then start experimenting later. Don't worry too much about min-maxing or being perfect. From my experience, every class has at least one viable build, and if you play around a little bit, I'm sure you'll find something that fits your style. Tip number 2, remember to use potions. As you journey from island to island, you'll end up picking up a lot of potions, so don't neglect them. It doesn't cost much, and they do tend to drop plentifully. When your health drops, potion. When your mana drops, potion. Use potions liberally until your build starts scaling to the point where you don't actually need them. And there's always a vendor in town where you can buy more if you happen to run out. Tip number 3, pick your fights. Sometimes killing an enemy isn't worth it. Whether it's a really tanky resistant enemy or something that could one-shot you, sometimes you should just run past using a movement skill or Shroud of Darkness. Now, it should be noted, this isn't always a viable option. If you run past everything, you're going to be way underleveled and have a bad time. Also, any enemy marked with a big golden exclamation on your minimap is a boss. You can't skip those because you need to kill them to progress the story. Don't skip absolutely everything, but if you say, hey, this really tanky, super armored thing just isn't worth it, don't feel bad about running past and, I guess, wiping out some of its friends. Don't worry, their loot was better anyway. Tip number 4, master Ghostlore's skill grid. This is one of Ghostlore's coolest features and a major part of character customization. If you want to make your own build, here are a few basic rules to follow. Place a skill on the grid, then place supporting effects adjacent to it. Skills are the things up at the top, and the supporting effects are all sorts of different symbols below. They offer skill bonuses, directly increasing the power. Usually this is good for damaging skills, buff effect for non-damaging skills, there's some minion effects, and there's even trigger effects. For example, you can cast skills when you crit, cast skills when you kill, cast skills when your minions hit, or even cast skills when you transform into a were-tiger. When you want to use a combo skill, place 2 skills adjacent to each other. Each class has a variety of skills, supporting effects, and class-exclusive passives. To activate one of these, you have to place 4 skills from that class on your grid, and some of them are extremely powerful, like the chain kill from Hasashin. Tip number 5, check out the vendors in town. Whenever you return to town after a fight, do be sure to go over to the vendor. For example, the glyph vendor lets you change the compound glyph type, and thus the bonuses it grants, or the shape, letting you play Tetris better. The blacksmith upgrades items, raising their level or rarity, and the prices do vary. You can also add sockets to items to put more gems in. The jeweler allows you to upgrade gems, remove a gem destroying the item, or remove a gem destroying the gem. You'll get a lot of gem drops early, so use them liberally on gear. Last but not least, there is also a general purpose vendor where you can buy potions and respecs. Speaking of gems, your first big purchase should be a gem bag. Between cooking supplies, potions, crafting materials, and gems, a lot of inventory space gets taken up, and sorting through gear can be a little tough even with a good loot filter. So one of your first purchases should be a gem bag. For 30,000 gold, this stores all the gems and picks them up automatically. As a note, if you're still struggling for inventory space, increase the strictness of your loot filter. This is found through the menu by hitting escape. Another way to get a lot of power early on is food buffs. As you're traveling, look for these kind of sparkly, slightly off the road areas. These drop various food items that you can cook into beautiful dishes by going to the street food vendor in town. Each different dish has its own primary stat buff and then rolls other stats randomly. All of the buffs scale to your level, so you will want to replace them fairly regularly. And you might not be able to afford everything, or you may run out of cooking supplies. If that's the case, then just come back to the vendor a little bit later. Tip number 8, use Alkahest, the kind of white bottle that you get fairly frequently. Alkahest breaks down gear, giving you materials that you can use at the calligrapher and the blacksmith. You'll pick up a lot of these, especially when entering the early endgame, and should use them overselling unneeded items of high rarity. You can sell the ones after you run out of Alkahest or the low rarity items without any issue. This is especially important to get materials to enhance your items or reshape your glyphs. Tip number 9, look out for buffs. Occasionally, you'll see a woman in gold robes. She's either going to give you a powerful blessing or, in some cases, lead you to a realm of infinite treasure. After looting all the chests, be sure to talk to her, as this gives you the ability to craft an exclusive modifier on your item, increasing its power significantly. This is one of the ways that you can polish up your gear in the endgame and go from kind of okay to a super impressive build. And tip number 10, lend a hand. Whenever you come across shrines, especially a Shrine of Balance, do be sure to stop. The Shrine of Balance allows you to exchange an item from your inventory with an item from the pool contributed by all players. So whether you're hoping for an upgrade yourself or looking to put a sweet reward in to give to someone new, don't forget to use the shrines whenever you come across them. And of course, last but not least, do be sure to have fun. Ghostlore is a single-player game. Yeah, there's leaderboards, but you should really play at your own pace and do what's fun for you. Your build doesn't have to be the fastest, strongest, or bestest. You don't have to be hyper-efficient, farming hundreds of thousands of gold per hour. You can just stop, smell the roses, maybe add the roses to your stew, maybe not actually. Thorns are probably not the sort of thing you want to be eating. Make your own build that's a hodgepodge of stuff, and really take the game at your own pace and enjoy it. It's not going anywhere. With that said, if you do want to know more about the builds that I've been playing, do be sure to get subscribed, maybe leave a like while you're down there, as shortly after this, I'm going to come out with 1 or 2 build videos talking about my experiences. I'll try to not only talk about what I've been playing, but also throw in some tips and tricks for new players hoping to make their own builds. But that brings me to the end of my top 10 Ghostlore tips and tricks. So to go over them in summary, choose your starting class carefully, as you won't be able to respec for a while. Remember to use potions, they're plentiful and useful. Pick your fights carefully, and don't be afraid to run past a monster that's just too annoying to deal with. Be sure to put skills in your skill grid to make your own custom build. Don't forget the vendors in town that are especially useful for enhancing your gear or crafting glyphs. In most cases, your first purchase should be a gem bag. Also don't forget food buffs, they're a major source of character power early. Use Alkahests to break down unwanted gear and get more materials. Look out for buffs, and of course, lend a helping hand. If you've been playing Ghostlore, whatever tips do you have for new and returning players? Be sure to let me know, along with everyone else, down in the comments below. And before I go, a special thanks to my patrons and channel members for the continued support. For as low as $1 a month, you can help make reviews of indie games just like this possible. If you haven't already checked out my Ghostlore review, do be sure to do so after this. And if you're looking for more content, maybe check out my thoughts on Grim Dawn, or a few other games that I'll put up in the card and down in the description below. If you've seen all that already, then maybe check out the video that's on screen right now. With that said, thanks for watching, good luck in your journey, and I hope to see you again sometime soon.